The seven deadly sins are pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. And as it just so happens, there are seven notorious red pill figures that each perfectly embody one of these deadly sins. And the first sin we'll be talking about is pride. Pride can be described as an excessive belief in one's own abilities. In other words, pride refers to a personal sense of superiority. And who better to represent the sin of pride than the infamous Andrew Tate? Andrew Tate is probably the most well-known red pill grifter on this list, and he could probably be used to represent most any of the seven deadly sins, and that's one of the reasons why I think he most closely resembles pride, because pride is sometimes referred to as the root of all sin. Pride is characterized by vanity, arrogance, and hubris, three traits that Andrew Tate most certainly exhibits. He frequently flaunts his wealth through social media, showcasing luxury cars, private jets, and lavish homes. And I guess he must not even know what a shirt is because he never seems to be wearing one. Clearly, he is a very vain person. He's rarely seen without a Cuban cigar and an expensive pair of sunglasses, and he seems to be entirely unwilling to take a photograph of himself anywhere other than the inside of a private jet or a yacht. He's obviously very careful and particular about his image, which isn't necessarily a bad way to be, but it sure as hell is vain. He often attributes his material success solely to his superiority over others in the realms of intelligence, discipline, and masculinity, and he always calls himself the Top G, a title he coined himself, which basically just means that he thinks he's the greatest man to have ever lived, the pinnacle of the alpha male. In a tweet response to Greta Thunberg, Andrew Tate said, "I have 33 cars. My Bugatti has a W16 8-liter quad turbo. My two Ferrari 812 Italian word have 6.5-liter V12s. This is just the start. Please provide your email address so I can send a complete list of my car collection and their respective enormous emissions." I think he was trying to make a point about climate change or something, but he can't even do that without bragging. The guy is arrogance personified. Literally everything he says is framed in the form of a boast. If he couldn't figure out a way to say something without bragging, then he probably just wouldn't say anything at all. If you sneezed around him, he probably wouldn't say bless you. He'd say something like, "Hey, that sounded like my Ferrari." When he orders steak at a restaurant, he can't just say, "I'll have the filet mignon," like a normal person. He'd probably just point at the most expensive item on the menu and be like, "I can easily afford this." Then the waitress is just left standing there like, "Okay, so is that what you want?" Or earlier I mentioned that one of the key components of pride is hubris, which is a concept originating from the ancient Greek tragedies that refers to times when a character in the story had so much pride it leads to his downfall. Well, Andrew Tate for damn sure showed hubris when he moved all the way to Romania in order to avoid the long arm of the law. He literally said, and this is a direct quote, verified by me, loser maxing, so you know he really said it, "I like living in countries where corruption is accessible for everybody." And I guess he thought he'd be able to bribe his way out of any offenses as long as he stayed in Romania, but yeah, that's not how things worked out. He eventually ended up serving 90 days in prison and later house arrest for human trafficking after his luxury home was raided by Romanian police. And like I said, I could probably just use Andrew Tate as the representative for any of the seven deadly sins, but when it comes to greed, he might actually be outclassed by Hamza. Hamza began his career as a self-improvement YouTuber, specifically focusing on fitness-related topics, but over the years he transformed into more of a general red pill guru type, often giving advice on dating, entrepreneurship, and masculinity, as well as fitness. And as soon as he blew up and started getting lots of views, he was undoubtedly raking in boatloads of cash, but I guess that just wasn't enough for the greedy Hamza. He took a page out of Andrew Tate's playbook and he started to distance himself from the more self-aware and humble Big Brother type persona that he originally built his following off of, and he started to move more toward the direction of becoming an unapologetic red pill cult leader that thinks he knows everything and can do no wrong. Now, specifically, the reason we know that Hamza is the personification of greed is because if you watch any of his earlier videos, he seems to be the type of guy that would be against the typical red pill grifter money grabs. But after he saw how much money his idol Andrew Tate was making, he completely switched up and started advertising his own bullshit subscription service. For $99 a month, Hamza's Adonis School offered self-improvement courses and weekly calls with Hamza himself. And actually, Hamza had already been grifting his audience before he started Adonis School just by selling access to his stupid water is wet self-help courses, but the Adonis School is where he really ramped up the greed. The Adonis School was more or less just a pyramid scheme where he tried to teach his teenage followers how to start their own versions of the Adonis School by just copying him. And there was also some kind of drama with him disbanding the school, then reopening it with a higher price or something, but I don't really care enough to look into it. Hamza is a greedy little dweeb, and by the way, I am 100% sure I could beat him in a fight. And I'll do it too if he agrees to it. And you might think that sounds rather wrathful of me, but when it comes to wrath, nobody more closely embodies wrath than Myron Gaines. Myron Gaines, aka Fit from the Fresh and Fit podcast, is a prominent red pill podcaster that seemingly has no ability whatsoever to remain calm. This man is wrath personified. He's like a rage addict or something. If you don't know about Myron and his Fresh and Fit podcast, basically what it is each episode they invite like 10 different Instagram girls to come sit around a table. Then Myron will rapid fire ask them each some stupid 3rd grade geography questions or something while giving them like half a second to respond. Then whenever one of the girls fails to name the capital of Portugal or whatever, he's like, "See, I told you women are stupid." But every now and then one of his guests actually makes a good point about something, or not even necessarily that, but they just offend him in some small way somehow. And when that happens, he just goes full Donkey Kong mode and starts shouting at them and kicks them out of the studio. Okay, well, he doesn't really shout that much when he kicks a guest out, but he does routinely have emotional meltdowns where he rages out on mic like a toddler having a tantrum. And I mean, if this isn't wrathful, then I don't know what is.
Lied and said that I got her pregnant when I fucking did it. And then you dumbasses, 3 years later, believe some bitch that makes the same fucking allegations again. You fucking idiots. I'm not going anywhere.
Maybe the reason why he has so much anger in his heart is because he knows deep down his whole career is built on bullshit. And also, I could beat Myron in a fight, just for the record. The next deadly sin on our list is envy. And the red pill moron known as Sneako is the perfect embodiment of that trait. Sneako is kind of unique amongst red pillars because he's been known on YouTube since he was like 14 years old or something, so he's pretty much grown up in the public view. He started off as a kind of pseudo-intellectual, thoughtful, artist kind of guy, and his public persona has been through a lot of changes over the years, but by now he's pretty much landed on being a red pill snake oil salesman. And I'll go ahead and get this out of the way, but yeah, I could 100% without a doubt beat Sneako in a fight, and it wouldn't even be close. Sneako is one of the youngest grifters in the red pill space, and he's also one of the most impressionable. It's hard to say if his motivation is envy or just pure admiration, but Sneako has gone to such great lengths to imitate Andrew Tate that he actually converted to Islam just like Andrew Tate, and he even went on pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, personally, I suspect Sneako's conversion is motivated primarily out of jealousy because he actually has a lengthy history of envious actions. Way back in the day, like 10 years ago or something, Sneako was actually friends with Mr. Beast. The two met on YouTube when they were both kids making Call of Duty commentary videos, and eventually Mr. Beast actually gave Sneako a job working on his crew. Well, after a short stint working for Mr. Beast, Sneako made a video about his experience where he basically just talked trash about Mr. Beast, and it was pretty clear he was suffering from a bad case of jealousy. He actually deleted the video shortly after uploading it, but not before it was seen by Mr. Beast himself. Sneako says he tried to apologize, but I guess it was too late. So due to his own envious nature, Sneako threw away his connection with literally the most successful YouTuber of all time. And knowing about his history with Mr. Beast, it's easy to see how some of his other actions may have also been motivated by envy. I'm sure a lot of you know about Sneako's public feud with Penguin Z, aka Moist Critical. And if you don't know, the feud started after Moist Critical dissed Fresh from Fresh and Fit. Then Sneako, who is friends with Fresh, responded by implying that Moist Critical's girlfriend is ugly. Now, this is just pure speculation on my part, but I think Sneako was at least partially motivated out of jealousy toward Moist Critical because, I don't know, it just makes sense. Both of them do the same kind of content where they stream and they react to other creators' content, then they upload clips from their streams, but Moist Critical is massively more successful than Sneako. So knowing how Sneako had previously lashed out against Mr. Beast due to his envy, it just makes sense that that's what this was too. Anyway, I'm certainly no fan of Sneako, but at least he's not as bad as the next red pill grifter on our list. The sin of lust is best exemplified by the YouTuber Denmo. Denmo started off on YouTube as a prank channel, but like many others in his cohort, he eventually moved on to pickup artistry and other red pill tomfoolery. In 2024, Denmo was convicted of SA and sentenced to 3 years in prison. I don't know all the details of the case since the only source of information on this is like one single article online, and its author was clearly biased against Denmo. But apparently, what allegedly happened was Denmo was hooking up with a girl from Tinder, and then she caught him recording her without her consent. And yeah, that's pretty much what the allegation was. So he was convicted and sentenced to 3 years in prison, but actually I think he might have been able to successfully appeal his conviction because he still frequently posts new videos on YouTube to this very day. I guess it's possible that he could have recorded a bunch of videos and scheduled them in advance before going to prison, but it looks like he probably just didn't go to prison in the first place. I don't really know. But either way, Denmo embodies the deadly sin of lust because he got himself into some trouble with the law in regards to his lustful relations. And according to that one article, he's actually supposed to be facing trial for another SA case involving a different girl in the future. But while Denmo's never... Oh, and wait, I forgot to mention. Yeah, I could definitely beat Denmo in a fight. He looks weak as shit. But while Denmo never seemed to be afraid to put his name and face online, this next red pill grifter refuses to show himself. And for that reason, I have no choice but to assume that Homath is a gargantuan, fat tub of lard. Homath is a YouTuber that got his start on TikTok, and all his videos consist of him showcasing these cute little doodles he draws. He was pretty cool for a while, but then he started trying to sell self-improvement courses and personal life coaching, which is basically the main hustle that all these red pill gurus get into. So, yeah, I don't like him. And you can watch the video I made about him if you want to know more about that. And you might think it's unfair of me to be saying that Homath is guilty of gluttony, but he probably is. I mean, why doesn't he show himself? He's either fat or ugly or both, period. And I know he has showed a picture of his body before, but that doesn't prove anything. I mean, that photo could have been taken years ago. And also, by the way, there's nothing impressive about this physique. If this impresses you, then I know you're either a child or you've literally never touched a barbell in your entire life. So yeah, until he proves otherwise, I'm just gonna have to assume that the guy looks like Brendan Fraser in The Whale. Homath is gluttony personified. Okay guys, so I was actually having trouble finding any prominent examples of red pill figures that are fat, but gluttony is one of the 7 deadly sins, so, I had to pick someone to make the video concept work. I know this one was a bit of a stretch, but whatever. Either way, yeah, I could definitely beat Homath in a fight, even though he's probably like 100 pounds above my weight class. Last but not least, there is one red pill grifter in particular that best represents the deadly sin of sloth. And that is Just Pearly Things, aka Pearl Davis. The reason that Pearl is the personification of sloth is because of her intellectual laziness. You might look at her YouTube channel with its nearly 1,000 videos where she uploads every day on top of the frequent guest appearances she makes on other red pill podcasts, and you might think, sloth? This woman is working her butt off. But just watch any of her videos. There's no effort there. And this is coming from me, Loser Maxing, a guy that pumps out moronic slop day in and day out without ever stopping to think about what I'm actually saying. But really, just take a look at any of Pearl's videos. She just plays clips of other people's videos, then reacts to the clips by just yapping on and on about nothing. She never makes any coherent points. She just repeats red pill talking points, and dumbasses keep eating it up because she's the token woman in the red pill space. So her fans can use her as an example to point to when they're having an argument with their mom or whoever, like, see, even a woman thinks that feminism, blah, blah, blah. And Pearl knows this. She knows she's the token. And she knows she can continue to rake in millions of dollars as long as she just continues to turn her brain off and let the spirit of Andrew Tate flow through her. So because of the complete and total lack of effort she puts into her content, Pearl Davis is the deadly sin of sloth. But with that said, coming in at a whopping 6 foot 4 inches tall and 270 pounds, Just Pearly Things is the only red pillar on this list that could beat me in a fight.